Hey friends, happy Monday and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. If you're new here, hello and welcome. I am Taylor. I'm a stay-at-home wife and mom, and I share these What's for Dinner videos every Monday to hopefully motivate you to cook more for your family and give you some new meal ideas. As always, any recipes that I mention are linked in the description box down below. I hope you all had a great past week and are having a great start to your week. Today I don't really have anything new to share with you, but everything we did have this week was delicious. Let me know down below if y'all tried anything new this week and if it was good or not. But let's go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. Friday night we had beef rice pilaf. This is a recipe that I've made a couple times. Sometimes I make it with stew meat and sometimes I make it with ground beef. But when you make it with ground beef, it's definitely a lot quicker because stew meat needs to cook a little bit longer, or quite a bit longer, to get it nice and tender. So I'm starting off here with my Instant Pot on the saute function, and then once it's hot I added in some oil and then a diced onion and let that cook for about 5 minutes until it started to get tender. And then I added in some cut up carrots and my stew meat and gave that a stir. And then I'm adding in some water and nor beef bouillon to turn that into beef broth. I'm adding in some pepper, garlic powder, smoked paprika, and beef seasoning. The seasoning that I'm using for beef seasoning is the Aldi version of the Montreal steak seasoning. And then I did a little bit of salt, not quite as much as the recipe called for since I was using that nor beef bouillon and it's a little salty. And then also half a cup of tomato sauce. I gave that a good stir, and then I put the Instant Pot lid on this, turned the valve to sealing, and cooked this on manual high pressure for 45 minutes. Once it is done cooking, you can go ahead and do a quick release, and then I'm going to remove the bay leaf and add in 1.5 cups of rinsed rice. And I don't stir this in, you just kind of want to make sure it's submerged into the liquid though. And then you can put the lid back on this with the valve turned to sealing, and then you can cook this again on manual high pressure for 15 minutes and then let it do a natural release. So like I said, this does take a lot longer than the ground beef recipe. With the ground beef one, I usually add in the ground beef with the onion, fully cook it, and then add in everything, including the rice, and cook it for the 15 minutes on manual high pressure, and then do a natural release, and then it's done. So much quicker with the ground beef, but we like it with the stew meat. Sometimes it just depends on how much I want to spend on meat, because ground beef is definitely a lot cheaper. But this is a very yummy and filling meal. You've got carrots in there, rice in there, and your meat, so it's like a balanced meal. Saturday night, we just had a simple dinner of spaghetti, and I made some broccoli in the microwave and seasoned that with garlic powder and Parmesan cheese and a little bit of salt and pepper and butter, and super simple and easy and always a family favorite. Sunday night, I actually had my brother and my uncle over for dinner because my uncle's birthday was this past week. He turned 63, so I made dinner for everybody because that's what I like to do on people's birthdays, and make dinner for them. And I made Tex-Mex chicken and rice casserole. I knew that it's a favorite. I've made it for my uncle and my brother before. My brother actually requested me to make this one year for his birthday because this is one of those recipes in that cookbook, the Better Homes and Gardens cookbook that I got from my dad. It was one of the first recipes I ever made. It might have been the first recipe I ever made. But when I originally made it back then, I did not do the onion because I was a big onion hater. But now I like onion and lots of things, and I will voluntarily put it in recipes that don't even call for it. But this can be found in the Better Homes and Gardens cookbook that I have linked down below. But I will also have it linked down below because I have found it on some website called midwestliving.com. I think it's owned by Better Homes and Gardens, but you can find the exact recipe listed down below for you guys. But I start off by heating up some oil in a pan and then cooking some onion until it is tender. And then once it's tender, I'm adding in my rice and vermicelli mix. It's just a chicken rice-a-roni package and the seasoning. And you're going to let that cook for 2 minutes till it starts to get a little bit toasted. I did double the recipe because I was cooking for 3 full grown men. And not just my usual family of cooking for 1 grown man and then 2 kids and myself. So I did double the recipe this time so we could have plenty of food for everybody. But once the rice and noodles and stuff gets a little bit toasted, then I'm stirring in broth and water, bringing that to a boil, and then I'm going to cover this and reduce the heat and let it simmer for 20 minutes. After the 20 minutes, the liquid will not be fully absorbed. It is more liquid than the box of rice calls for, but it will all work out. Then I'm going to add in some chicken. I am using rotisserie chicken that I have cut up with my kitchen shears after I pulled it all off of there. And then I'm also doing tomatoes. The original recipe calls for like some diced and seeded Roma tomatoes. Sometimes I like to do that, and sometimes I like to do just like canned Rotel. So this time, since I was doubling the recipe, I did some of both. I also did an entire can of diced green chilies. And then for seasoning, I did basil, chili powder, cumin, and black pepper, and I'm gonna mix that all together really well, and then also add in some cheese. I did this in this big like skillet that is oven safe. If yours is not oven safe, you're gonna want to transfer it to a casserole dish. But anytime I have something that I need to cook on the stovetop and then transfer to the oven, I usually like to do it in this just to save on dishes. And then I topped it with a little bit more cheese, and then this is going to bake in the oven on 425 for 25 minutes. The recipe says to cover it. I don't usually cover it. The rice is nearly done. I don't see the need to cover it. It gets nice and browned and melted, and then we can serve this up. I sometimes like to eat it as a bowl, but I also gave everybody the option of having it as a burrito. So we had black beans on the side. We had all the things that you might want in a burrito: guacamole, lettuce, more tomato, salsa, more cheese. We also had chips and salsa and stuff on the side. And yeah, I forgot to get pictures of most people's plates. I think I got a picture of Elijah's plate. Yeah, some people ate burritos, some people ate bowls. It was delicious, and we had a good dinner with family. Monday night we had barbecue pulled pork pizza and salad. I used the pizza dough from Aldi this week. It was on sale for 99 cents. So I just spritzed my sheet pan with a little bit of olive oil cooking spray and then spread out the dough as best as I could. And then I baked this in the oven, I think on 425 for about 5 minutes to kind of par bake the crust. I feel like it gets crispier and it isn't as floppy if you par bake it for a couple of minutes first before adding on your toppings. And then I'm going to top it with some barbecue sauce and pulled pork and cheese. We did mozzarella and cheddar, and then I put this back in the oven for another 10 to 12 minutes until the crust was looking like it was done. And then to go with it, we just had a salad, and it's pretty much that easy. This is one of our favorite ways to use up leftover barbecue pulled pork. The kids are always asking for barbecue pulled pork pizza or flatbreads. We like to do it on the like flatbreads or like non-pizza as well. But this dough was so cheap this week, I was like, let's just do it on that. So that is what we had for dinner on Monday. Tuesday night was Taco Tuesday. It was white people taco night. We had some taco shells from the grocery store and ground beef from the grocery store and some shredded cheese from the grocery store. If you guys still haven't seen that video, I will link it down below. But yeah, pretty much hard shells, ground beef, shredded cheese, lettuce, tomato, salsa. I did make my Mexican restaurant style rice in the Instant Pot, and then just a can of refried beans. This next meal is inspired by a Greek chicken and veggie sheet pan meal that I saw on Pinterest, but I did not use the seasoning that they had. They wanted you to like make your own Greek seasoning blend, but I felt like the za'atar seasoning blend that I have would be really good on this, which upon further research is actually like Palestinian. So it's like a mashup of like Palestinian seasoning, but then I'm also going to be adding feta to this. So feta is very Greek. So, Yeah, it's just like a mashup. So I don't really know what to call it. We're just going to call it chicken and veggie sheet pan meal. How about that? It was absolutely delicious. I love this za'atar seasoning and I can't wait to use it on even more things. I really like it on chicken and vegetables, and so does the rest of my family. So I'm starting off here by chopping up veggies. The recipe didn't call for it, but I had some red onion and I was like, red onion's usually good for like this kind of meal, like Greek flavors, with like feta and stuff. So I thinly sliced some red onion, and then I am cutting up 2 zucchini and 1 yellow squash. I like to kind of cut out some of the seeds because I feel like they get mushy, so I do that, but you don't have to. And then I'm also cutting up some bell pepper. I'm doing red. The kids don't really like red raw, so I had a bunch of red peppers already sliced that they just like eat the yellow and the orange and leave the red pepper for me to use in a recipe because they'll eat them when they're cooked. And then I'm also adding in some cherry tomatoes, and then I'm going to drizzle everything with some olive oil and give it a toss with about a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of the za'atar seasoning blend. I ordered this on Amazon last year and have used it now in like 3 different recipes. I think it's great. The first recipe was lamb, the next recipe was chicken thighs, and now we are using it today on chicken breast and veggies, and it's so good. Then I took those veggies and dumped them on my sheet pan and kind of spread them around to the edges so I would have room for my chicken. And then I've got some thinly sliced chicken breast here. I'm going to toss it in that same bowl that I used to season the veggies, and I'm just going to toss them in some oil and some of the seasoning again. Get it in there with my hands and make sure they are coated really well. I also added on a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I added those to my pan in the center and put this in the oven on 375 for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, I checked it, made sure the veggies were tender enough for us, and made sure that the chicken was cooked all the way through. And then I took an 8-ounce container of feta cheese and sprinkled that all over the veggies and put this back in the oven under the broiler for like 8 minutes to get the feta a little bit melty and get everything a little bit browned. And then I served this on top of some white rice, and it was excellent. We'll definitely make again. We all loved it. Thursday night we had homemade air fried fish sticks. I've made this before. This recipe is great. The only thing that I do different is I use regular flour instead of wheat flour. So I've got one bowl here and I am mixing together flour, paprika, garlic powder, salt, and pepper. I'm just going to whisk that together. That's going to be part of our breading. And then in another bowl, I am whisking together eggs and lemon juice. And then in the final bowl, I am whisking together panko breadcrumbs and Old Bay seasoning. Then I've got 4 tilapia fillets here, and I am cutting each fillet into 4 pieces. You just cut them down the line in the center and then cut each side in half. And you've got 4 little pieces to make little fish sticks. And then I'm going to dry them really well, both sides, with a paper towel. Then I'm going to take each fish stick and dip it in the flour mixture first, then into the egg, and then into the panko breadcrumbs, and then lay them on my air fryer basket. I did have to do this in 2 batches because they would not all fit on my air fryer basket at once, but I just continued dipping them, flour, egg, panko breadcrumbs, making sure to really press it in and get them all coated nicely, and doing that until my air fryer basket was full. Then I put these in my air fryer on 400 degrees and I cook them for about 12 minutes. I do 6 minutes, flip it, do 6 more minutes on the other side. And you can spritz these with some cooking spray before tossing them in the air fryer, and then again when you flip them over. But I completely forgot to do that, and they still browned nicely even without that. So you don't have to if you don't want to. To go with this, I served some fresh veggies on the side and then some french fries that I also cooked up in the air fryer. And that was it. As I said, we'd had those fish sticks before, and they are delicious homemade fish sticks and a great way to use tilapia, because sometimes you get bored straightforward with the tilapia recipes you find online, but this one is a really great way to use it. But that is going to be it for this week's What's for Dinner. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you leave me a thumbs up, and if you plan on trying any of these recipes, let me know which ones in the comments down below. And if you made it here all the way to the end, please leave me a smiley face emoji to let me know that you made it all the way. I hope y'all have a great week, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye!